Welcome to the Sisterhood of Sweat. I'm here today with Shelia Mac. From experiencing all of life's hardest challenges, including homelessness, abuse, and losing everything in a house fire, Beverly Hills author Shelia Mac has inspired others through fear, resilience, and determination to gain back control of their own lives. Today, Sheila consults individuals, teaches online courses, and is a nationally recognized speaker and host of NBC's Shelia Mac Show, featured on radio, on-demand TV, and podcast channels. Sheila has made it her mission to guide others with similar life experiences back to empowerment. Her new best-selling book, Bootstraps and Bra Straps, The Formula to Go from Rock Bottom and Back into Action in Any Situation, is a resource for those who need the guidance and assistance to take their life back into their own hands. Sheila has an innate ability to find a glimmer of light in even the darkest of situations and pave the way through her personal journey for others to follow. Sheila is the host of NBC's Shelia Mac Show and has been seen on ABC, CBS, Fox, Medium, The Wire, and Forbes Business, plus many others. Today's episode was all about pulling yourself up by your bootstraps or your bra straps, whatever you need to do to rise above your situation. Sheila has been through so many things in her life, but she has learned how to turn all of her lemons into lemonade. And today she gives us the formula, the boot formula. And sometimes you have to give situations, people, things the boot. She says the boot formula works for any situation that you're in. She gives advice to anyone out there what the signs of abuse are, not just physical, but mental, emotional, financial, and the solution, how to set better boundaries and start giving the love to yourself that you need versus trying to get it elsewhere or get outside validation. Today's conversation was so good. She also talked about how to go from your rock bottom moment to empowerment. And I know this is going to empower each and every one of you today, whether you're in an abusive relationship or you just want to feel more empowered. Without further ado, let's dive into this episode. I'm so excited to welcome Shelia Mac to the show today.
All right. Thank you, Linda, for having me.
You're so welcome. I really enjoyed being on your show. And I think the audience will love hearing the 2 episodes that I've done with you. And you're so conversational. How did you ever get started into radio?
You know, my first radio show actually was many years ago when I was working in real estate, and I got on a real estate show, and that was a blast. And so that was my first experience with that. And then from there, more recently, after I wrote my book, Bootstraps and Bra Straps, The Formula to Go from Rock Bottom Back into Action in Any Situation, I was on someone else's show that went on to NBC's radio. And from there, I got invited in to do a 1 hour spot. And then I took over somebody's morning commute spot as well. So now I do 7 hours a week.
Yeah.
And it just up. So I think the thing is, say yes. When something shows up, you say yes. And I mean, even years ago, I wasn't looking to have a radio show. Years ago, it was a friend of mine invited me to be on the real estate show. And we had fun. And the next thing you know, I was on there once a week. So
I love that. Well, I think your gift will make room for you. And when you have something you're good at, if you just give it a little bit of a chance, who knows where you might wind up. I wanted to teach fitness, and now I own a big studio. So, and It was just like back in the day, it wasn't like a career that people did as a career. So I think your passion, you can unite your passions with and your purpose and make some income on top of it all. And I don't think it feels like work. What do you think?
Oh no, especially during this time where we have a lot of lockdowns and you can't visit or travel with people you know as much. Because for me, this is like my social time. I get to visit with family and friends and share messages that could hopefully help people out there. So that to me is like I jump out of bed for this every day.
Well, I love that. And I feel like so many of our listeners are really in tune with their purpose, and they want to ignite today. And many of our listeners may be still struggling out there. Maybe they're in a bad situation like you and I found ourselves once upon a time. And your book, I freaking love the title. How did you come up with that?
Okay, so back in 2017, it was actually December 3rd. And I had just purchased a house November 3rd. After traveling 7 years full time, I loved it. I had a blast. My daughter and I wanted to settle in Ventura. And so I bought a nice house, and I was just going to move in, and I had everything. It took a month. You know how you do. So I had everything perfect. I painted the walls myself. Everything was gorgeous. And and I got delayed with a client until I think about 11 at night. And it was like ridiculous. And then another delay. Somebody else called me, another emergency. So when I was driving back I was in Calabasas, and I was driving home, I saw the fire. This Ventura fire went for miles. And I felt so sad and sick. I just had this feeling. And by the time I got to my place, I was able to grab a few boxes, and that was it. And everything was lost. And then before you know it, I also lost my car that same week and my cat. And I actually
Oh my
rescued
gosh.
the cat from the fire. And then where I ended up staying, the cat was so freaked out with everything going on, she ran out and got eaten by a coyote. So it all happened within about 4 days. I lost my house, my cat, and my car. And it was, what do I do? Everybody around me also was dealing with it. The fires burned, I think, for over a month or so, or it felt like that anyway. And I had this prefab mobile home that I had bought for pennies in California. It was like 30 some odd $1,000. And I bought it, I fixed it up. This is a mental, like environment is everything. I made it, I had a yoga deck, and I made it into a vacation rental. I divided it into 3 and I made it beautiful. And so it was booked. It was full. People had their honeymoons in my mobile home. And it was really nice because it was the canyon. It was
Don't
nature.
come knocking when it's rocking, I guess.
Yes. And so I'm there like, okay, I don't want to go stay at the there's the shelters, and they were really crowded, and I said, that's even harder. And so I was grateful I had this little 400 square foot like a supply closet, but it had a little bathroom. It didn't have a shower. I had to go to the gym to shower every day. And I stayed there, and I needed every penny because the insurance does not pay you like in a minute. You don't get paid back in a minute. And then you have to pay off whatever you owed and deal with all that.
Oh my gosh. And all your possessions were there in the house?
Everything had been moved over. So I had a box that I had pulled out. The power was already out. It was in the middle of the night by the time I arrived at the house, and we were given evacuation orders. And some of the neighbors didn't want to evacuate. And I was like, no, I saw the fire. You got to go. And I grabbed, I had one nice shoe and one nice outfit, and then, a couple of pictures, but a lot of things you couldn't even see to get them. Yes. And it was so crazy. So I went into this mindset. I said, okay, I have studied personal development for 7 years straight. I traveled with all these people and did all these incredible things and trainings. Let me put this to use. So I'm out on my rebounder, jumping up and down, saying affirmations. And my neighbors up in the canyon at the house are looking at me like she's flipped her lid. And I'm like, no, it's gonna work. I know it. And then one of my sons, he loans me his car, and it was a beater car that drove sideways almost. It was something was off with the, I don't know, alignment. And I brought it into the shop, and they were like, it's $6,000 to fix everything because it had so many things wrong with it. So I just did the best I could. I said, just fix the brakes. and and then I'd rent cars. And for that beater car, I go to the dollar store and I got the stickers, blessed, flow, peace. And I cleaned it. I had it detailed. And my son said, oh, Mom, you souped it up. And I said, that's right. And I put positive music on there. It was such a beater car. You had to roll the window down. And I was like, I got I haven't driven in this kind of car since I was a teen. And that's, when you
It
drive.
really humbles you and makes you realize what matters, right?
Yes. And then it was like, okay, but who am I being in all that I'm doing? How am I showing up? And that was my first mantra, or my affirmation was, doesn't matter if I'm in a shack or a mansion, if I'm in a beater car or a very expensive car, it doesn't matter. Who am I being? How am I showing up? And that was the first B in the Boots formula. And that was the beginning of, wait, I've got something. And I wrote this formula out, the Boots formula. And with that, the book showed up. And I wanted that to help other people when they hit a tough situation. Maybe they have to go through it alone, and how to get back on track using this method, no matter what the situation, COVID, losing a job, getting a divorce, loss of a loved one, whatever the situation, you're able to use this as kind of a guideline, this formula.
Right, because like, aren't we just boats in the ocean? And the waves come, and sometimes it's still waters, but sometimes it's a storm. And I love this analogy. My father used to use it, and it's just knowing how to have that peace no matter what the situation or what the storm is, that gets us through life. And you are no stranger to hardship. I see the many masks of abuse as a chapter in your book. So we must have glossed over that. Can you tell me a little bit about what that means and why you wrote a chapter in your book entitled that?
So I grew up in a very interesting situation where my parents weren't healthy enough to take care of me. They had some limitations. My mother had polio and this and that. And so I was sent from one home to the next. And some of the homes I was at were so abusive that I would be thrown against the wall and wake up the next day with a concussion. It was broken bones. And at one point, my mother told me, had returned to this relative's house and said, you need to go. Just go with your friends. And so I didn't even know, but from 10 to 13 and a half, I was homeless. And I went from one friend to the next. I didn't know. I was literally safer on the streets and with different friends and figuring things, where am I going to sleep tonight, than at home or at the home I was sent to stay at. And so I thought, this is so important, and abuse shows up in many ways. And then when you grow up in so much abuse and you know that as love, and that's what you experience, then as you get older, you tend to be attracted to people that kind of align with that. They don't do that. So even though
You
they're
don't
abusive,
recognize it.
yeah, you don't. And you think, well, that's not so bad because you should have seen these other people. They were crazy.
Exactly.
And so you've got to learn this it took me a long process to learn a lot of self-love and recognizing the signs, and then to say, wait a minute, you know what, that's not aligned with who I am now. And of course, when you're a child, you don't have control over these things. And so I have this chapter to help people. It goes through all kinds of steps. And I also have a free gift for people trying to get out of abusive situations that goes into detail. It's really hard to get out. Maybe you're in an abusive marriage or something like that, and you have children. It's hard to get out. A lot of women, especially, it could be men, but it tends to be more women, but it could be either. They fear for their lives at a certain
Yes, absolutely.
So not easy. And there's lots of steps and resources that I connect the readers to, and bonus gifts.
And I really
So,
love that. How did that show up though? Like later on in your relationships, like give me some like idea so anybody out there listening that may relate to your story can get some help today.
so I think in my relationships, I didn't know what I didn't know. So I was attracted to Mr. Wrongs, and, and so starting dating, I dated a really nice guy that was a good friend of mine's brother, and he ended up going to prison, and he was on the wrong road. So then I thought I'll date another nice guy. Well, I didn't know. And he turned out to be somebody that I ended up marrying because I got pregnant. And my family at the time had said, okay, I got sick. I ended up in the hospital when I was pregnant and almost died with a kidney infection. And so my grandparents said, okay, we will help you a little bit, but if you want help for you and this baby, you're going to have to work. The help was working. It wasn't like free help. They were like that. But
I know, right?
condition, the one condition, they were very religious, Catholic religious, and they said you have to marry this person. And I did not want to because I didn't feel it was the right alignment. And I did because I didn't know what to do. I had lost my job and been in the hospital for like 5 months with this very difficult pregnancy. And so I felt very stuck.
Right. I think a lot of women feel stuck in relationships.
Mhm.
And I think because, you get married, you have kids, you have friends together, you have family together. And also, when you're in an abusive relationship, it's kind of like a whole process of grooming, breaking you down to where you lack that confidence to leave.
Yes. And it's interesting because I look at it now like there's people that are just not maybe healthy, mentally healthy, maybe as you are. I mean, you have to be mentally healthy not to abuse somebody. There's something not quite right. When somebody abuses somebody else, there's something off because that's not healthy and normal. It's not a healthy person. And so when you're leaving maybe the parent of your children or somebody that's not healthy, and it could be that it's your parent even that's not a healthy person that you have to get away from, but you're in this commitment, this
Mm.
relationship, or this obligatory situation where it's your parent, your loved one, your spouse, whatever, and you need to leave and set new boundaries. The thing that blessed me and helped me the most was when I realized, wait a minute, I'm the healthy person. I need to go. And if the other person was 100% well enough to not do those things that weren't so healthy, they would say, yeah, let me help you pack your bags. And they would go get their help to heal. So so you have to take it upon yourself to know that that is really the highest and best thing to do, even if they're not there. They may never heal. They may never be well or whole or off of drugs or whatever they're doing that causes them to be abusive. That's on them. You
But they're
can,
so sorry, Sheila.
yeah, and that's okay. They can be sorry, and with the help,
And they'll never ever do it again, Sheila.
exactly. And at a certain point, you realize, wait a minute, 1, 2, how many strikes you're out, and you have to say, wait. And it's hard because you've built a life, and you have to really reorganize. That means kind of like this last year, everything has fallen apart in a certain way, but we're reorganizing hopefully to something even better. And so we have to do that in times for our own safety. And that's the best way to send love, to not have the emotion of hate or anger, but just to say, you know what? Oh my gosh, you're just not well. I got to take over. You're
And
not in a
yeah,
good place. I got to go.
yeah. And we were talking in my boot camp the other morning about tolerations. And somebody was having an issue, and I don't know, it just took me back to when I left the ex-husband because he was physically abusive. And I said to her, I said, I stopped tolerating it. And if I wouldn't have stopped tolerating it, I'd still be there tolerating it. And
Yeah.
so you get what you tolerate.
Now, here's the thing. I don't know how many times, even my father, when he was living, and he was a wonderful man, he couldn't take care of me much. He ended up dying very young. He had health issues. And I did get reunited with him later on. And we had a beautiful relationship. And even he was introducing me to this doctor guy and trying to get me away from my marriage. So it was interesting. But even with that, loving people were telling me, hey, this isn't right. This isn't aligned, why are you with this person? And I was like, well, I got the kids, and I'm already,
Uh-huh.
and there's some obligations. I mean, literally my grandparents wrote it where the kids wouldn't get anything unless I stayed married to this guy. Like, it was stupid. But so I was like, okay, this is awesome. But with that, I I didn't I had, they say cognitive dissonance. They say sometimes you don't even see what other people see. Honestly, I didn't see half of what was going on. I
Right.
just, and I don't know if it was like a coping thing. I was the only person that earned any money in the family the whole time. And
Oh
so
my goodness.
I was literally working, supporting the family, doing all the things. You teach the kids how to read, get everybody to classes, do everything, hire housekeepers and people to help clean because I'm working full time running 5 gift stores at the time. And I would just, okay, the reason I had 5 gift stores is I'd be like, okay, I'll just open another business because you're driving me crazy. So I'll just go work some more. So work therapy. And so that was it. And so I
That
didn't
was your
see,
retail therapy, right?
that was it. I was like, I'm gone, I'm out. So that was it. But I didn't see things until I was ready. So if you have a friend or a loved one that's not there yet, don't give up on them. Don't, they're when they're ready. When you were not ready, there was a point before you were ready where you didn't hear that either. And when you were ready, it was your time and you were strong enough to go.
Yeah, and it's funny about that. It's a pattern. Um, when you really start to see what abuse is, it's a pattern.
Mhm.
And it's crazy how so many people that have suffered domestic violence of any sort or abusive, relationships,
Yes.
it could sound like the same individual, but it
Oh,
was
yeah.
your husband, but it was my husband, but it was this person's husband.
Mhm.
And how can people like not relive this pattern over and over? How can they break the pattern and break the silence?
Okay, so when you're healing, going through, it's really a self-love. It's learning your value, and it's learning, whoa, wait a minute. I don't need to be treated like this. My children don't need to be treated this way. I'm better than this, and not in a above ego way, but in a healthy way. I deserve healthy, loving relationships and goodness in my life, and that's all I want. That's what I give. That's what I deserve to receive back. I don't deserve to, have this stuff, this negativity and mess in my life. And so there's a certain point where you'll notice that I know for me and many people I've worked with that you lose boundaries. Now I had a
Oh
classic
yeah.
narcissistic kind of a person. So, I had to deal with all that, but you lose boundaries and they also tend to separate you from family and friends. I was not allowed to go to the gym. I was not, we would fight for 80 hours for me to work out 1 hour. Not freaking kidding. And I was on the Junior Olympics team for swimming.
Oh my goodness.
I love to work out every day. So for me to like not be able to go do anything, you need to do a lot. Like 1 hour a week is not something when you're used to doing 4 hours of swimming a day. It's like, what are you talking about? And I was a young mom, so I needed that outlet, and I didn't have that. And my friends were controlled. I was not, only certain friends I could have. And so it was very difficult, um, very controlled. So you'll see that you will not even be able to have certain friends, or you'll have to fight really hard to have those type of freedoms. They'll tend to isolate you or keep you from whoever could help you get out, they're going to keep you from if they're really abusive. They may move you away, or do something interesting that'll keep you away from maybe your mom or your sister or somebody that they know doesn't like them, that wants you out. They will do these little things. And so, or if somebody's trying to get them off of drugs or alcohol. And so that's the one thing. But there comes a point where it's self-love, and you'll realize, wait a minute, I'm having this boundary thing with other people. I don't say no for volunteering at school. I don't say no for this and that. Or maybe some of the other friends aren't treating you right. Whoa, wait a minute. How am I letting these people not treat me right? What is this? And then you start having new boundaries, and you start saying no. And the people that didn't treat you right, they don't want to be your friend anymore, because they don't like the new you.
They don't like having boundaries because they're used to being able to trample on you.
Yes, whether you're the mom that did everything at the school for free or whatever it is. And they're like, wait, didn't you always do everything? I'm like, yeah, but I also run businesses, and I also I do everything, and it's too much. I got to say no. And so you'll get this point where it's almost like you have to learn to walk on your own 2 feet alone. And it's scary because it feels like, oh my gosh, I've just lost my quote unquote friends. But if they're not aligned, because you're being something for other people, but it's not really 100% who you really are in your essence and truth, then they're not your people. They're not your peer. You know what I mean? And
Right.
so once you start showing up as you, and you honestly say what's on your mind, I started saying everything that was on my mind. Nope. No rolled off my tongue. And I would say the truth, maybe too much at a young point. Sometimes I said too much. But what happened was, people really were like, oh my gosh, if I ask Sheila, she's going to be 100% honest. And if she doesn't want to go here or there, she'll tell me why, and we'll go do something else that we love to do, that we both enjoy, whatever. And it was this slow, gradual road. And, getting divorced finally. And then everybody wants to date right away. And I wasn't interested in that for a while. Then I attracted the wrong guys. And I was like, wait a minute, that guy is just like the guy I left. Oh, wait, no. And I learned to quickly see the patterns. Oh, wait, they say they're going to show up and then they cancel. And they do it 3 or 4 times, like the certain patterns, or they lie, or okay, they're out. And then it was like, you disqualified yourself really quick. and
Right.
and then you realize, okay, but why was I even attracting those type of guys at first? Because I still needed to work on me. Right. And then it was that realization. And the more work I do on myself, it's like, okay, oh my gosh, healthy people, healthy relationships show up. Wow. Why is that? Because I'm a healthier person. So I'm attracting healthy people. I have a healthy boundary. So if somebody is trying to push me beyond a healthy limit in one way or another, they're going to get a no. They're going to get a boundary. They're going to realize, oh, this lady doesn't play like that. This person's not going to be treated like that. She would never tolerate, I don't know, somebody that's an alcoholic or really addicted to whatever, or abusive. She's not going to tolerate that. So they're going to say next, and they're going to find someone that works for them.
And
So it's standards, but it's what you're allowing.
What you and I both went through, as my listeners have heard my story many times, I think because you didn't have those boundaries at an early age, because you weren't unable to, you were kind of thrown out into the fire,
Right.
and you didn't recognize what proper boundaries were. And so how did you begin to recognize what proper boundaries are? How did you, like, what are the signs? I see you have in your book a whole reboot activity, knowing the signs. What are the signs so our listeners out there know what to look for, you know, that somebody is abusing you or they're going to be abusive?
So some of the signs you'll find, first of all, if somebody is too nice at first. Now that sounds like what? But if you just meet someone and they are like way over the top, oh my gosh, I love you. I'm, and it's like, I've known you 3 days. You got to throw the brakes on because something is not aligned. This is not normal, healthy, getting to know a person phase. This is over the top. And there's usually the other side of that. You know what I mean? So there's that. Then there's noticing if they say they're going to do, if they do what they say they're going to do, or if they say something and it's a lie or a mistruth. Okay, maybe they fib about certain things a little bit. Yeah, I make a lot of money and maybe they make a little less, or maybe I weigh a little less than I do, something that's, but they fib about a lot of things. And you start to see that. Or they say, I'm going to be here. Let's go out Tuesday night. Then they call Tuesday and they say, you know what, I can't. Let's go out Thursday. And then they, switch it around, or, just little things. Or you realize that maybe there's substance abuse going on if you're not into that. And it's not, like there's normal, okay, let's have some wine. Let's, go whatever. But if it's over the top, these are things you want to look for that people hide really well.
Right,
so
because that's their representative.
Yeah, so I mean, there are people that are functioning, but they're dangerously addicted to whatever, and then when they go home or whatever, they become very abusive. I have dear friends that I've actually interviewed on my show that got into alcohol too much and actually hit a girlfriend and got into jail, a jail sentence for this abuse. I would have never thought that person's an abusive person. Right. But it's the drug or the alcohol can switch somebody's mood. So you need to watch for these signs. If you ever see something like that, that's like a red flag. And who's their family? Who's the friends? Do they have friends? If they don't have friends, that's kind of like what's going on. Or if they want your attention all the time and become overly controlling when you're barely starting to date and they're like, you can't wear this out, or that looks too good, or start trying to control you in any way. That's another red flag. Or they want to go everywhere with you. My daughter has a group of friends. They go out every now and then, and one of the girls is dating a guy that's not healthy. And he wants to go. They're going to have a girls' night out, and the guy wants to go because he doesn't trust the girl alone.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Yes. This
That's
is like
red flag. Ding, ding, ding.
Red flag. And she's like, bad. And I'm like, yes, it is bad. And she said, but the girl doesn't see it. And I'm like, yeah, she doesn't see it. And her dad's kind of like that, the girl's dad. And so, yeah, that's something. And she won't listen. So it's those kind of things, and it's subtle. One day the person's nice and sweet, and the next day they start saying mean things to you. Little dig.
How did you and how can all the listeners out there go from a relationship rock bottom to a moment of empowerment like you did? And what is the Boots formula to do that?
Okay, so in order to do that, well, first of all, it's really, people always say, oh my gosh, you'll be happy when you're in this relationship. And I want to tell everybody listening in, unless you find happiness within yourself and wholeness as yourself, you are not going to attract a happy, whole person. If you are needing another person, place, or thing to give you happiness because you don't have that, or wholeness, that right there is a sign that you got to still do the work. And it doesn't matter if your friends say, oh my gosh, it's been a year and you're not married again. Well, that's okay. You've got to heal, especially if you just went through an abusive situation.
Oh my gosh, it's more than okay. You're just like, maybe never do I want to do this again if you went through like a really bad one.
Exactly. So it is okay to take your time to do your work so that when you are happy, think about it this way. When you see, maybe you're a lady, you're looking for a guy, you're looking for a lady, who knows nowadays, but you're looking for a partner in your life, someone to have a relationship with. What attracts you to that person most is the personality. They're happy, they're whole, they're well, they are good with having time with somebody and spending time as a couple, but they're also healthy enough to have time alone and to do their own thing. They don't need you. They enjoy having you. Together, you are better, but you need to get to that place first. And I think that once you have that, you attract people that want more happiness and already have it. And they're healthy and they're like, oh, this is healthy. I want healthy too. This feels good. We know how to honor each other, give each other space when we need it. No, I'm very few people, men especially, but even women, do not like to be smothered. They don't want to be needed 24/7. Who does? Get a puppy. Puppy but everybody needs their space. And so it's like you want to be able to enjoy playing together, building together, and having fun because you're whole and healed. And doing the Boots formula, it would be, who am I being in all that I'm doing? And who do I need to be in order to have the person that I really desire show up in my life? Who would that type of a person, relationship partner be? Who would they expect me to be? Am I that now? Who do I need to be? And then it's order of operations. So it's okay, orientation is the first O then in the Boots. And that is, okay, so here I am now, and this is where I want to go. And then it's the little steps. Maybe you need to work on yourself in one way or another. And we all got to work on ourselves all the time. It's okay. But you love yourself where you are, and you say, these are the steps I need to do. Maybe you need to get therapy or go through a training program or a group program and get to the other side of healing the past. So you put that down completely so you're ready to go on to the future. Then it is order of operations. What steps and what order do I take? And the next thing is thinking. It's mindset. It's acting as if and knowing that that person shows up because your life is already full and complete, and you're just inviting more goodness in, and you're giving love in everything. And so you receive love. You're being happy. You're being love. And so that's the thinking part. You're not waiting until some perfection time. You're being and thinking, and your mindset is clear and good. And then they're stepping into it. So then you got to take the steps. You got to actually like go onto the dating sites or go to places you're going to meet people, or however that's done in this COVID time. and so you have to actually be willing to go out on dates and interview people and get to know people to decide, okay, this is aligned, and take it slow.
And just because somebody's not hitting you doesn't mean it's not abusive. I just want to clarify. There's all sorts of abuse, financial abuse, emotional abuse, how you were talking, somebody very domineering and controlling, so you can't think for yourself or make a decision for yourself. How did you go from such like an unhealthy relationship kind of quota to having a relationship, attracting a relationship of your dreams?
Well, it took a lot of time alone and steps. When I first got divorced and everything, I actually, because I was saying no, I think I attracted more people, and I was absolutely not interested in having a relationship with anyone but myself. And I needed that. I got married really young, and I needed to just be on my own and healthy that way. And it was really interesting because I wasn't desperately seeking another
Yeah.
relationship, and that vibe was like, oh, okay, that one's not hunting me. So then I became, they're like after me, and I'm like, wait, no, please back up. And so it's interesting because that's a vibe that happened, but it's giving yourself the gift of time to really do that work, and then getting to know people and relationships. I did not jump into a relationship really quickly. It took time and to find an aligned person, and so it wasn't. And then it was a 3 years of, we were sort of friends before a relationship built up in my relationship life. So it wasn't like a overnight success thing. I needed to feel safe. And that was the one person that, I'm still kind of with now, that's like, I feel safe with this person. And that, so men listening in, there's something about when you're able to have your woman feel safe. Like I don't have to be in charge of everything. I know I could say this is happening, and it's like he's like, I got this, and I'm like, okay. All right then.
Well, I think that is one of the biggest things is for women, they need to feel safe when they're in a relationship.
Yes. And I mean, it's like, I can't even, and I would joke with him at first, and I'd say, oh my gosh, at the time he was dating someone else. And I would say, do you have a brother? Because damn, you're just, you're amazing. And we were friends, and then that didn't work out, and she left and went somewhere else, and moved away. And it was interesting how that happened, because it was, for me, I needed it to come from a friendship that turned into a relationship, because I needed to feel safe and get to know this person and who he really was. There was no pretension. There was no BS or running around the bush, or, the dating thing didn't really happen, because it wasn't a dating thing as far as, the pretend, where you go on a date and you show your best self. It was like, you get to see me in my worst self. There when the fire, who helped me with the fire? He shows up. It was that, as a friend at that time.
Oh my gosh, that's kind of how I met my husband too.
Yeah. Yeah, so it was that. It was like, okay, and he would be like, I'm there, and it was like, okay, and so it was that, and I didn't have an expectation of it. It was just like, he was like, no, you have to tell me, because I want to make sure you're good. And it was that, and it went on to something more, and it was great. And so that's where, but I was at a place where it was okay, and I was ready for that. And it took a long time, and there was many incredible guys that I said no to, probably, that were great and healthy and whole, but I wasn't ready along the journey.
What?
So there were many other people that, I waited years to really date and seriously get into a relationship again. And there were many that tried to date that were probably perfect too. When I say there's not one perfect person out there, but when you're not healed and whole,
You're not
you
ready.
not see Mr. Right or Mrs. Right or whoever. You will not see them in front of you. You won't see them because you're not ready for them. You're not ready for that. And that's okay. That doesn't mean it goes away forever. It just means that in the right time, it'll show up.
What would you like to say to somebody out there that can't see the forest for the trees? Basically, they're in a relationship right now. They don't realize that getting rid of the bad, well, makes room for the good. What would you like to say to them right now?
That you're not alone. Get into as many groups, support groups with friends, with different programs that you can, so that you're not alone. And know that the time that you do take for yourself to heal is going to bless you with the best relationship you've ever had. And it's funny because if you have children, and this is one thing I kind of thought, and I didn't even realize, was that your children will be so happy to see you in a healthy relationship.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, they're like, oh, that's right. And it's not about, they could still love or have a relationship with the mom or the dad that's not in your relationship anymore, but they want to see their parents happy and whole just as much, and it blesses them because it models. And this is how you walk away from, if somebody is ever not healthy with you, you walk away, and you're modeling doing that. You can talk about doing it, but when you do it, you show your daughters, your sons, that we
Right.
don't tolerate this. And then when you do, finally, when you do your healing and you do that work and you do attract somebody healthy, then you're modeling, oh my gosh, it is possible. There are healthy people out there. Not everybody's got an issue. You can have a healthy relationship, and this is what that looks like. And they're like, they feel peaceful, and they can go have their grown-up life because they know you're good.
And when
You know?
you're showing your worth, like
Mhm.
you're showing them that you value yourself, it makes them value themselves a little more. And I think that makes them like, it just makes them more secure.
Yes, yes. And they know you're safe. They know
Right.
you're good, and you're in a healthy relationship. And so then they will actually also, if they were starting to kind of model what they grew up with and maybe try to date people that weren't healthy, they'll say, "Oh no, that person's not aligned. I want someone healthy. Mom's got someone healthy. I want someone healthy in my life too, because that feels better. That looks better."
You
That's
have you have been through so much, and uh, I just admire you so much, like for what you have been through, what you have come through, what you have made out of yourself as far as your bright shining light. How can everybody out there go through these circumstances? Maybe their house didn't burn down, maybe they lost a job during COVID or a relationship. How can they go through those things yet come, like, what are, like you were talking about, you have these tools for no matter what you're going through. Walk us briefly through that.
Okay, so, using that Boots formula really can apply to anything. And that's, sitting down. It's when I had that fire, I wanted to write that book so that it's, if you get a divorce, I have a whole chapter on relationships. I have a chapter on dealing with addictions, whether that's a loved one that's addicted, or you're dealing with your own addiction, or getting out of abuse, or different career shifts, reinventing yourself, self-care. So whatever you're doing, I wanted to make it so that maybe it's my grown-up daughter or my best friend. If I knew every single person that was to read my book personally, I'd sit down with them and I'd say, okay, let's sit down. Yeah, this serious thing just happened. Like I recently, a year ago, it was December 21st, I lost my youngest son. And I have a chapter on grieving. And I had to apply all those tips to my life and my family. And I would want someone to sit down with me and go through the steps like in the book, and the activities and resources that are in there, and say, it's okay. I know right now you feel like the whole world's come to an end, and this terrible thing has happened, and we're going to get you from this point to the next, one right action at a time. And here's the steps. here's the Boots formula, and then there's a ton of resources and activities, support groups that you can connect with so that you can get to the other side of this and you're not alone. And that's what I would do. And so that's it.
Love it so much. This has been such a treat. I'm definitely going to have you back on. So amazing. I'm so inspired, and I feel like you gave so much great advice to the listeners. And where can they get your book, Sheila?
Okay, so if you go to SheilaMac.com, you can get the book there, SheilaMac. And also, I would love to offer at SheilaMac.com, if you do /boots, BOOTS meditation, you will get a free introduction course to the Boots formula, as well as a meditation course. And that's a meditation that you can do when you're ready to sit down and get started on rebooting your business or personal life.
And also, where can they find your radio show? Because I feel like they're going to want to hear more from you.
Okay, so the radio show goes to NBC's KCAA radio, and it also goes to on-demand TV channels. So if you go to kcaaradio.com, you'll find the Sheila Mac show there.
Wow, thank you so much. And thanks everybody for listening to this episode of the Sisterhood of Sweat.